Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, fields and streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks they're on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The coyotes run all night. It's music to my ears and in my sights. I've got this hunting fever down in my bones. Glad my daddy taught me everything I know. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks they're on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks they're on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The TLC Outfitters is our name.
Hey everybody, happy Wednesday this week. Welcome to TLC Outfitters On Air and Outdoors. We appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Hope everybody had a fantastic Independence Day and through all the good food and relaxation, all the fun and everything. I hope everybody had a chance to think about all that it took to get us to where we are today and be able to, enjoy the great outdoors, enjoy our way of life, enjoy the freedoms we had. Hope everybody was safe and sound. As always, joined by me, Trinity Shepherd, and our fella on the other side right here. Looks like his name tonight's Matt Woolwine. Nothing too fancy tonight. How you doing, Matt?
Nothing fancy tonight, but didn't have time to come up with a catchy phrase today.
That's okay. That's all right, man. I'll tell you what. I don't know about everybody else, but I think we had a fantastic 4th of July.
Yeah, man. Yep, you come down, was able to spend a little time there, and we eat good. We worked on deer houses or shooting houses and deer plots and cameras and everything else. So we had a good time and got to spend a little quality time up here in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, man, I love it down there. I tell you, the diversity across the Commonwealth is so great. Sometimes we take it for granted. I'm over here in the east, in my neck of the woods. You're over there in the central. You think about the west, and you get to go spend time like I've got to spend down there, like you've got to spend over here. It gives you a real appreciation of what the great Commonwealth of Kentucky has to offer, especially from an outdoors person. It has so much to offer. Anything you want to do outdoor adventure wise or outdoor relax, whatever it is, there's something great, man, for people to be able to come and enjoy in our great state. And I'm very proud. I got some pictures to show here in just a few moments, and we're going to show you a little bit about what we done yesterday. But anyway, we're going to be joined by a guy that I think is one of the top elk guides ever in the state of Kentucky and anywhere really in the United States. Ben Moore, he's got a lot of outdoor knowledge, great hunter, has helped mentor a lot of kids, a lot of people. And now he's got his son Maddox that he's bringing up the right way. If you've kept in tune with us on the show over several weeks, we've showcased Maddox putting in food plots and doing all kinds of stuff. So Ben took time out of his busy schedule to come and join us tonight. And Ben is a leading expert in retirement, but he is a leading expert, and I will call him an expert on Kentucky elk because I'd say it's safe to say that even people that's been in it since the go around has not helped harvest as many elk as this guy has.
Right.
So
let's get him on here, bud.
Yeah, man.
Let's hear what he's got to say.
Yeah. Where's he at? Right there he is. There he is. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing all right, guys. How are you all?
Doing all right, man. Thanks for taking time out to be with us tonight. We appreciate it very much. I got some pictures here before we get into our food plot show. And I plan on this we're doing food plot 101 tonight. So we're going to be talking about the basics. And this is going to probably be about a 3-part series. I want to talk about the basics tonight. We'll probably have another expert on next week. And then we're going to finish it up with some hardcore stuff on episode 3. So this will be 3 weeks of talking about food plots. Hope to have a very special guest in week 3 to join us, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Ben, man, looks like over the last week or two, you and the family have had some fun. Tell us about this right here.
Yeah, we went down to Destin, Florida, and we took an offshore trip, and we went about 15 miles offshore there to some man-made structure that the Fish and Wildlife Department in Florida had sank out there for snapper habitat. And of course, snapper season is in right now, and we were able to take us guys out there and all get a limit of red snapper and mango snapper. So we, in that picture there's close to 40 snapper there, and it was a feast. It was great eating.
That's some good eating right there, man. And that's a lot of fun. Florida's another state that's got a lot of diversity. Of course, we'll be headed back down there in October. That's right. And that's our little buddy standing beside of you right there, Maddox. So good. I know he had a good time.
Those 2 tall guys there, you can't tell on each end. Those are my little brothers. Both of them's over 6 feet tall. So
yeah,
they got the height. I got the width.
So those are your brothers back there in the back.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Very good. And then, as always, I got to say a big shout out to my little buddy Hunter Harless there, showing his patriotism. Got to spend some time with him and his family this weekend. They fed me good. We got a special show coming up this week for our YouTube channel. I hope everybody gets a chance to go check it out. We just released our first show on there about frog gigging, and we got a very special show coming up this week too about catfish noodling and tickling. But they fixed up some flathead, and I'll tell you, there's no better eating than flathead catfish. And I just about foundered this weekend on flatheads. Ben, have you ever done the whole catfish tickling noodling?
I haven't. That's something that I would love to try, but I haven't done it.
It looks to me like it's going to be a whole boat full of us next go around. Yeah.
The best catfish tickling is when it's going down your throat tickling.
That's right.
That's right.
Ben, I ain't much of a fisherman, boy, but I tell you what, I know how to eat.
Yeah.
And especially if it's fried, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, we brought those fillets back. I had a 45 quart Yeti loaded down with fillets. We had 8-gallon bags full of fillets. And my dad is one of the best cooks you'll ever try to eat after. So we foundered on fish the whole week. So
that's awesome. That's awesome, man. And here's another special part of 4th of July for me. We got to spend time with this is Jill's grandmother. We call her Mama Cox, 96 years young. And if you haven't got a chance, we posted a video of her talking about Independence Day yesterday. We posted it this morning, and just a fantastic time. Man, she sure fed us good, Matt, with all kinds of fixings and that good watermelon, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that, like she said, that one of the best watermelons she's ever eaten. If it's one of the best ones she's eaten 96 years, it's probably pretty good. I'll tell you that.
That's right. That's right. I don't
Little
know who. I
salt
don't know who.
shaker, little salt shaker and a little watermelon. They go a long way.
Yeah. Of course, here's Jill all smiles, but that grumpy fellow there in the background, I'll tell you what, he just always got that sourpuss look.
He looks familiar.
Yeah. And then, man, y'all talking about that part of the country you're from, Central Kentucky, 4th of July, the fireworks were awesome, but I have to tell you, we got to see something better to me than fireworks, and that was what you said, a cotton candy sky. You look at that overlooking one of the farms there, close to Barnwine Farms. Just breathtaking, man. Just breathtaking. Look at that. I mean, that's something like you see in National Geographic or something. And that wasn't anything that we done. We just trying to capture the moment.
That's right. God paints the sky. He paints it everywhere, not just one little spot. So whether you're in the plains of Africa like we was a little while back, or whether you're in Waco, Kentucky, or the hills of Eastern Kentucky, or wherever, if you look hard enough, you'll see something pretty spectacular.
Yep, absolutely, man. Best part of being an outdoors person. They accuse us all the time of being stone cold killers. Killing something, harvesting something is just a small percentage of what being outdoors is really all about. Very good. All right, guys, I want to dive into this show, man. For me, I've learned a lot over the past 20 years, especially from Matt. Matt has dove into farming pretty hot and heavy. He's dove into managing for wildlife real hot and heavy. Ben's taught me a lot over the years of guiding and wildlife management. I've got to spend time with some of the best people in the business with fish and wildlife management area managers over the past 20 some years. And I tell you, man, it's still confusing to me. So tonight we're going to dumb this down for folks like me that say, you know what? I just need the bare basics. And then next week we want to take it up another step farther. But you two guys have really, and I left the daggone picture out somewhere. I didn't see it. Ben, I had a picture of your plot, but we'll put it on here again. But we had shown some pictures of Ben and Maddox putting in that plot, and it's greened up and look really good. But with you guys here tonight, our mindset is that person out there, the man or woman out there that's got, whether they've got 5 acres or they've got 500 acres, and they're like, we've never planted a food plot. We've never done anything like this. We got to know from start to finish how to do the simplest of things to at least get some grow going for the wildlife coming up. We're ticking right now. It's July the 5th. So what's past is past. So we're going to go from today moving forward. And we know our grow season is going to be short because we're in the 7th month of the year. So I'm going to let you all take it away. I'm going to start with you, Matt. Where would a person need to start if they started today with food plots?
Well, I think the first place that you need to start is, you bring up a good point. We're already in the end of July. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're already past planting season dates for. What I would do from this point forward is I would first pick out a spot, whether it's a field, of course, we're talking across Kentucky, you got different situations. You got a lot more agricultural fields up here in this part of the country than where you guys are. And a lot of even the fields that you guys have down there in Eastern Kentucky, a lot of those have been old coal mines. So maybe the soil quality is not real good or whatever the case may be. But what I would do is I would figure out where would I want to put my food plot. That'd be the first thing I'd do. Second thing.
Before we go on, that's a great point. What does people need to look for when they're picking a spot? What is it that you look for when you say, I'm going to put it in, I got to find a spot? What are we looking at?
Well, and I mean, to be honest, that kind of depends on the area that you're in too. You know, I can go out here and I can in where we're from here in Central Kentucky, you can put a food plot on every corner if you want to. You know, we got a lot of fields, we got a lot of whatever the case may be, but you know, down there, you guys dealing with the hills and the hollers and the hardwoods and the thickets and all this stuff. I believe if I was in Kentucky planting food plots, I would maybe look at an aerial map, or I would know the property that I was hunting. I would pick out an area that I thought was maybe a bedding area, and I would pick out some travel corridors, and I would pick out some areas that would be conducive to putting in a food plot. You may have to trim some saplings or whatever the case is, and get you a little piece. You know, I'm talking an eighth of an acre. I'm talking, you know, a few thousand square feet. It don't have to be huge plots of property, especially if you're a bow hunter or something like that. But pick out where you want your food plot. That's the number one thing. I think you need to know that before you go any further. Second thing is I would go ahead and I'd get some soil samples. You know, up here in agricultural land, if you're a landowner, you can get free soil samples from the conservation office. Now, down there where you guys are, I don't know if you can do that in the timber country. I know they can do them for you. Up here, they do them for free. But down there, you know, may cost you $10 or whatever the case is. And if I didn't want to go through that trouble, okay, because that'll take you probably a month to get your results back. If I didn't want to go through that trouble, I would simply go out there and I would pick my area, and I would throw down about 100 acres of lime or 100 pounds of lime to the acre, and I throw down about 100 pounds of triple 10 or triple 19, something like that, to the acre, because I know, you know, down there in eastern Kentucky, like I said, you're dealing with soil fertility is probably not the best thing, being around all that cold land and things. And so that's the first things I would do is pick it out, and then I'd work on my soil, basically work on my soil compatibility and get my pH neutralized.
What do you think, Ben? What's we've talked about area, picking area and whatever. What do you think starting out? What should anybody be thinking?
Well, the picking the area part there, you know, like on the piece of ground that I'm doing, there were some small plots that's open in the timber, you know, small little fields and stuff that was open in the timber, sometimes 2/3 of an acre, sometimes 1/4 acre or less. And basically we take one of those spots, and the first thing we do is pull our soil sample. A lot of these places on these old strip mines, like what we're hunting up there, we found that you only got maybe 1.5 to 2 inches of topsoil. So the big thing that we try to do whenever we're finding that is find the fields that's got a little bit of topsoil on them, get our soil sample, and see what we can do. As far as positioning food plots, kind of like what Matt said, I don't want a food plot in an area that deer naturally are attracted to anyways. You know, just adjacent to bedding areas and things like that, little pinch points and that stuff. And like he said, it's clearing out a little place in the timber, getting some sunlight down to the soil, cleaning everything back, and those little small kill plots, you know, can be very successful. Another big thing is we got to get you know where you can access. You know, a food plot does you no good if you got does in there, you know, all hours of the night and into the morning, and you're blowing the deer out of the plot trying to get to a shooting house or a tree stand or something of that nature. So, you know, I try to put them in an area to where you have deer traveling through, but you're not trying to make an area to where deer just stay constantly on you.
Yeah. And that's one thing to remember, I think, and that's an important thing we've talked about, and we have, you know, figured out some of it kind of with hard knocks over the years. a sanctuary on your property or around your property is as important or more important than anything you do. You have to give these animals, especially whitetail, a safe place. You can do all the work you want to do, and if the way things are set up, those deer don't feel comfortable enough to have a bedding area, to have safe travel corridors, it doesn't matter how much money you put in the ground, on top of the ground, above the ground, you're not going to have the outcome that you desire. You have to make certain, no matter. Matt and I we looked at a place yesterday, and in my mind, I see things one way. Matt may say, and I said, Matt, I said, this plot is amazing. Well, what do you think about this? Well, there's a natural trail there, and then that leads to a bedding area. I didn't know that because you know the land. It's very important to give way. Food is good, habitat's good, and whatever. But if you're always blowing deer out, or if you're not holding deer, you got to hold. If you want to grow a deer, you got to hold a deer. If you don't have that sanctuary, all the work is for naught. Y'all agree?
I agree.
But one thing I would also say is, depending on the size of the piece of property that you've got to hunt, whether you own it or you're leasing it or whatever, that's going to depend a lot on, one, the size plot that you put in, or two, the purpose of the plot. So, if you're bow hunting an area that's 10 acres, and that's all the land that you have access to is that 10 acres, you're not going to want to put 10 acres of corn or 10 acres of soybeans or whatever the case is in there. What you need to do is put in what being referred to as a kill plot. You basically put a little magnet in there so that as these deer travel from property to property, they're likely to stop off and see your little kill plot. And when they do, that's when you're there. Now, if you've got 500 acres or you got 1,000 acres or whatever the case is, now you can start putting in a plot that actually hold deer, that you can put enough food source in that those deer will start bedding close to there because they're using that food source all the time. Now you're holding deer. But, on 10 acres, it's unless you just got an ideal heavenly deer spot of a sanctuary, it's hard to hold deer right close to a small area like that. You usually got to have so you got to know what you're dealing with there, and you got to set your expectation and your purpose, and that may change your whole hunting philosophy. When do you go in there during the day? Whether you're getting in there before daylight, or are you letting them get out of the plot, go back to bed, and then you come in and wait for them to come that evening? It may change your hunting strategy a lot too.
Yeah. And another thing you have to keep in mind is, we live in a time now where we've got onX, which is one of the greatest tools. onX, Hunt Stand. I like onX. That's what I started using. That's what all of my stuff's on, and it's brilliant. I think about what if what if my dad had onX and knew how to use it back in the day. He would have been, it'd been untelling what they could have done back in the day. But you can look at other properties. Matt, I know you and I have talked about certain plots of property in the area, and we realized that there's one of the biggest sanctuaries ever was, right there, and you don't even own it, and that's fantastic, for you. Permission to hunt a place isn't always the greatest tool or the greatest value of property. And you can really use that to your advantage when you're taking a look. But that's diving deeper into and getting away from food plots. So, all right, we have picked an area. All right, we're gonna try to pick an area that maybe we want to pull deer to. We don't want to go into disturb areas that we know deer historically are always there. If you got a big white oak, chestnut oak patch, you don't want to go put a food plot right in the middle of that. I wouldn't. You also want to mine travel corridors. You want to give security. And I've got my soil samples back, and I know now what my soil is lacking on. I need so much lime per acre. I need so much fertilizer per acre. Now comes the big question. I probably need to prepare my ground, right?
That's right.
So we may be talking about a eighth of an acre plot out in the woods that I can't get a tractor to, or a side by side or a 4-wheeler, or we may be talking about a 3-acre plot that I can get a side by side to, or we may be talking about a 10 or 20-acre plot that I can get big machinery to. How am I going to prepare my ground?
You know, Trinity, that there again, that all depends too. You know, when I had that place up in Fleming County, I had plots that I could use tractor and equipment in. I had plots that I could use 4-wheeler with a pull behind bush hog on, you know, different things like that, different attachments for a 4-wheeler, which they make everything these days. You know, if you know somebody that's got them, or you own them, or, you know, they're out there. They're out there. But, you know, there was actually some small tree stand plots where I knew that deer was going to be coming through there at a pretty quick pace. And I just wanted to give them that, you know, couple 100 foot of area. Be like, okay, maybe I'll just stop for a nip, and that'd be a good bow hunting area. And when I owned that place up in Fleming County, I had all sorts of different size plots. So big plots for big equipment, medium sized plots for 4-wheeler implements and things like that. And then there was actually a couple places where I'd take a garden rake in there. I'd rake back that leaf litter, expose the ground, take my chainsaw, clip out, you know, let that sunlight hit the ground, and then do one of those they call them throw and grow and this and that, but basically something that didn't have to have nothing but just good soil contact on that seed. You know, that could be a clover seed, or maybe even a rape seed, something that didn't have to get deep in the ground. You could just rake that back with a garden rake, that leaf litter and things, expose that dirt, create a little sunlight, throw that seed on the ground, and hope for rain.
What do you think, Ben?
Well, once I find the spot and got my soil sample and everything, I'm gonna go in, like Matt said, like on our plots, we're pretty remote back there, and it's pretty tight. We're blessed with a lot of acres, but a lot of it's not tillable, and a lot of it, the access is rough. So we're basically down to ATVs, side by sides with just small implements. I have a set of discs that's probably 100 years old. I mean, and the biggest thing is having a bush hog or some sort of finish mower or something like that to get that the old grass stands mowed down. And then I usually use a sprayer, a 25-gallon sprayer that I put on the back of my ATV, and I try to spray everything down, get all the weeds killed out. And usually that takes about 10 days. And then once you go back in 10 days and you've got a bush hog really close to the ground and it starts to kill out, you start seeing that soil coming through. At that point, then I usually use a disc, depending on how much topsoil we got to mess with. Is kind of dictates how deep I'm going to go with the disc. So a lot of these places, I'm just lightly discing just to turn over the soil. And then at that point, I usually wait 10, 15 days and let all the seeds that I brought back to the surface germinate and start to grow again. And then at that point, we'll go back through with 2 quarts per acre glyphosate, and we will kill those weeds out. And then when we get the weeds took care of, basically that's whenever we're going to start planting. Yeah. And sometimes that's a process. I got plots. Yesterday I sprayed 4 plots, and it was the second spraying. It was the first spraying after disking, and I've been working on these since the 1st of June, just trying to get these ready to seed in August.
Yeah, very good. We got some people joining us. I know we caught people off guard tonight. Jill's shaking her head at that grumpy photo of you, Matt. I mean, I don't know why it's a big surprise all the
Yeah.
time.
Well, if she ain't used to it by now, I don't know what to tell her.
Our number one fan, my mom says hello. Our buddy Nathan Gerald says, I'm going to have to come and hunt with you guys because deer season comes. I never see anything. That's not true at all. At all. Very good. All right. So, where are we at now? What's the next thing we need to talk about?
Well, I think probably deciding what kind of seed you want.
Right.
You know, what kind of food plot do you want? And down here, you know, that can be a little bit hard to figure out sometimes because, like, you know, anybody down here where I'm at, anybody that wanted to could probably put in a food plot. And that, you know, you further east, not everybody has that option really, you know, of any size whatsoever. So I think you got to look around you. There again, that Onyx or that hunt, Onyx or hunt stand or whatever the case is, or know the people around you, know who's putting in food plots, know who's feeding corn, know who's doing this, know who's doing that, and you do something different. You know, if you look at that map and you realize that you're surrounded on four sides by guys that hunt, most likely you're realizing that 80% of the people out there is probably just pouring corn out on the ground. So what's your corn pile going to be that your neighbor's isn't? Well, nothing. You know, basically it's going to be the same. So what you want to do is figure out and be like, hey, I want to do something different. So now, depending on the size and where your plot is it going to be a clover? Is it going to be some kind of brassica for the winter time? Is it going to be, are you planting soybeans in May? Or are you planting corn? Whatever the case is, where, you know, down in eastern Kentucky, corn's probably not a viable option because when you plant that, it needs to be 2 inches deep. And if you've only got 2 inches of corn of topsoil, that's probably not going to raise a real good corn crop, at least on a large scale. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think you got to figure out what you're going to plant. And last year I put in some brassicas and stuff, some turnips and some radishes, and man, they done real well up here, and we've really seen a lot of deer activity. And I know that nobody around me was doing that same thing. You know, so they might have been feeding corn, but they didn't have the smorgasbord of clover and radishes and turnips and whatever the case is. You know, they just didn't have all that buffet.
Yeah. Ben?
Well, in our case, back in the hills here, like what Matt was saying, you know, we really don't have the acreage to do like a soybean plot or something like that. I mean, when them soybeans get up and they're 4 or 5 inches tall, they're going to be browsed down before you ever get a chance to climb up in the stand and hunt over them. Yeah. And so on these smaller plots, you know, we like to use, basically stuff that's going to grow throughout the fall. And when a deer comes to take a bite of it, it's going to grow back. So, you know, stuff like winter rye, winter wheat, clover, even tillage radish and oats is a big thing. That's what we're going to be using mostly. Now we have a couple plots that we're putting in that's not going to be hunted over, basically like kind of what Matt was speaking to earlier, to where that we're hoping that they will hold deer. And then in those plots, you know, we're going to be planting some more of the tillage radish, some turnips and things like that. One big thing is whenever you're talking about seed is your seed quality, and you can spend a little bit more on seed and get a lot better. I have been doing a whole lot of research on seed here lately, and found like germination rates. And some of this seed that you buy in these box stores, the germination rate on it might be down into 40%. And you can get online, and there's a couple real good companies that sell seed that their germination rate is all the way up to about 80%. So when you're talking about buying clover seed that comes in a 10-pound bag, and you're only getting 40% germination out of it, well, you plant your acre plot with 10 pounds of it.
We're getting 4 pounds.
That's right. You're only getting 4 pounds. And a lot of that added stuff in there is weed seed. So you have to be really careful and check the tags on your bags and make sure what you're buying, and make sure that you're not buying clover seed or any type of seed that's just full of weeds. I found a company online here. I bought some Egyptian wheat there for some shielding, Hancock Seed Company, and they're actually out of Florida, and they have some really, really, really clean seed. And you get what you pay for. It's expensive, but I feel like if you take out the germination rate and you do the math on it, you're really spending about the same money.
Yeah.
So
and not getting mad at it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You go out there and you throw $100 worth of seed on the ground, and all you got's a handful of plants that jump up. You're gonna be mad about it. But if you throw $200 worth of seed on the ground and it looks like a lush green pasture, you're pretty happy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
you
right.
Get what you pay for on the seed.
And I'll tell you, Ben, one company here in the East, down there where Matt's at, Matt's down in the agricultural belt, down there where Matt's at, you really start getting into some heavy agriculture down that way. But over here, not so much. But I'll tell you a company that I've dealt with here for a long time is Cottle Seed.
Yes.
They've got mineral that's specialized just for deer and for cervids. They've got new Titan blinds. They've got any seed you can think of. Matt and I talk about, when you buy mineral, we were talking about mineral. When you buy mineral, a lot of this mineral, all it is salt. It's 97, 98% of it's salt. And salt's good. That's an attractant. But, Cottle Seed's a place you can go to, and it's hard to find. This stuff's hard to find here in the East, but you can get dicalcium phosphate. You can get the other mineral, and you can build your own mineral palette to be able to put out to those deer. And I just can't say enough good things about the folks at Cottle Seed. If you're in Eastern Kentucky, you need to head to Allen, Old Road to Allen. Check out Cottle Seed, and also it's worth a call and then there's another Cottle Seed in Moorhead as well. So y'all need to check those people out. It's local. And then if you can't do that, order your seed. And like Ben said, and like Matt said, order it from a reputable company, read reviews, make sure they got clean seed, which is as weed-proof seed as possible.
Yeah. And with Cottle Seed there, that's who I'm going to be going through to get all my seed for this fall. And they're actually going to mix my seed for me and bag it for me, what I want in there. So that I get the blend that I want. That's another thing too, is you got to be careful with these kitchen sink blends that just got everything in them, because there's a lot of that stuff that competes against itself. And, sometimes whenever you're planting brassicas with radish or brassicas with oats or things, some of that things, if you do your research on it, you'll see that there could be 5-6 weeks difference in the planting time of those. And so here you're putting this in the ground, 5 weeks too early. Some of that stuff is going to grow up and not be palatable by the time deer season comes up, because you planted it way too early. So you have to be careful about the kitchen sink blends on that, and try to get the stuff in that needs to be planted at the time you're planting it. And I know we're just talking about right now just fall plots and stuff there. And, there's stuff you can do in the fall, though, that will, still be growing and doing good come turkey season.
Here's one thing I want to point out, and I know you all agree with me. If you're a new food plot planter, if you've not done it a whole lot, or you're just getting into it, you will get more bang for your buck and more enjoyment by keeping it simple.
That's right.
You need to talk to people who are experts in this. You need to talk to your extension offices. You need to talk to your soil conservation people. You need to talk to, I know my buddy, in the next county over has lush green, food plots, and he knows what he's doing. You need to pick species to start with. You need to pick species of things you're going to plant that are more hardy, that doesn't take your involvement as much until you get some time under your belt. Things like winter wheat, clover, things like this. The list goes on and on and on. But don't try to get too complex, too fast. Start off simple, because if you dive in and you, like they say, spend a bunch of money, you don't see the results you're looking for, it's going to derail you pretty quick, and we don't want that. So I guess that's the next thing, picking a seed, picking what you want to plant. We've talked about location, we've talked about soil testing, we've talked about soil prep, we've talked about all those things, and we've touched a little bit on different seed that we're going to plant. I know you guys are getting into some complex stuff that takes a lot of time, but what will be your suggestion for people, no matter where they're at, to find maybe what to plant or know what to plant? What's your criteria for that, Matt?
Well, one thing that I would say is if you're doing small areas, quarter acre or less, then you're probably okay buying the branded seed, the Mossy Oak Biologic, the big hunting companies, name brand
Whitetail
seed.
Whitetail Institute.
If you're doing acres and acres of food plots, I would suggest maybe looking at just farm seed. Go down to your local farm store and tell them, hey, look, I'm planting stuff for the wildlife, but I'm interested in it may be radishes, it may be turnips, it may be clovers, it may be winter wheats, it may be whatever, but you can buy a lot of bulk seed to plant more acres for a lot less money by just going through the farm store. So, I'll tell you where I'm at. I mean, I just put out a plot that will serve two purposes: the deer, the doves, turkeys, and nesting happy. Of course, they won't be on the nest at that point, but a lot of cover for ground nesting birds like turkeys or bobwhites and this and that. But I literally just put in a plot of German foxtail millet and buckwheat seed. And what's going to happen is that foxtail millet, the deer are going to browse, they're going to graze on that a little bit, browse on that as it's growing, but then it's going to produce that seed head, and then that's going to drop a lot of seed for the doves. Same thing as the buckwheat's going to do. Of course, I got a lot of turkeys in the area, so it's going to produce a lot of, feed for the turkey. And that's going to be something that's going to take me into wintertime. And once I get later into fall, what I'll do is I'll overseed that with some kind of turnip or a radish. And that'll take me with a green leafy plant all the way through winter. And that's what I'll do for this year.
And those bulbs, sir, when you plant radishes, when you plant a big bulb plant like that, they serve dual purposes. Not only green tops are going to be ate, but those bulbs are going to bust up that compacted soil, and they're going to actually feed that soil with a lot of good nutrients. They'll take up a lot, but then they're going to disperse it once that comes to play and rots up and whatever. So winter bulbs are a great food plot booster in my head.
And if you got your micronutrients right, once that frost starts hitting, them deer will dig them radishes up out of the ground and eat them like carrots and eat them like apples.
Yeah.
So that's a good food plot. That's a good food plot. But what I would say is, you can't really overdo it with your fertilizers, with getting your pH right and stuff, because the more nutrition that you've got in that soil, the more it's going to grow in that plant, and the more palatable those leaves and bulbs and things are going to be to your deer.
Yeah,
because you can grow a plant,
sorry.
may not taste good, and it ain't going to do you any good.
That's right. That's right. Ben?
What the mix that I get from Cottle Seed there this year, and they're going to make some of this up. That's just going to be available for anybody to buy. I got the tag here, so I'm reading off the tag. Winter rye, winter rye oats, winter peas, and radish is going to be that. And then they're also going to be adding clover to that mix there. So, and what's pretty good about that is some of the winter peas and stuff like that, they get browsed on early, pretty heavy. But that winter rye and winter wheat's going to take you through the winter and have something green there, and it's going to keep growing. When they take a bite of it, it's going to grow back. So anytime you get warm weather, that's going to keep growing. The biggest thing that I look for is something that can take browse pressure, especially whenever you're surrounded by places that is going to be very minimal food, come cold weather. The more tonnage you can put out there and the more it keeps growing, the more the deer's going to hit it throughout the season. So that puts you at the most valuable time. And, kind of the way that I look at it is, your ground in the summertime is about as good as it can be for a deer. A lot of people say, well, deer love acorns and stuff like that, but that's only a short time of year when they actually get to eat the acorns. It's the browse and everything that keeps your deer around. And so in the wintertime, when that browse starts dying out, it's important to have feed out or have some sort of food plot out that's going to produce. And if you got it out and it's green, and like Matt said, when you get your ground right and it's really palatable and stays palatable through the winter, those deer are going to be hitting it hard.
I had a biologist tell me one time, he kind of laid it out in simple terms for me. You take your deer herd and, it depends on how big, your area is, how much impact, but you're going to, no matter what you do, no matter how little or how much you do, you're going to have an impact on an area as far as habitat and as far as the animals are in that area. But if you draw out a straight line, and on that straight line is your deer herd, each member of the deer herd in that area, and that is them at normal levels. That's just them across the board, normal nutrients, normal browse, normal, habitat, everything normal. And their food intake is that where it's normal. Of course, when the acorns drop, mass crop comes on, they go above that, and your deer, increase. They increase in body size. They increase all this. The more minerals they have. But when you start seeing in the wintertime, you can tell when you start seeing more and more deer come out to graze, heavy graze. You get seeing multiple deer day after day after day. The browse is gone, and that's where your deer herd starts ticking towards that midline. And as they go throughout winter, coming into spring until better stuff goes along, they will go below that midline. Now, this is their nutritional value. This line is their nutrition. They go below that. So if we're talking about you're wanting to grow big bucks, all right, when the spring comes on in the summer, those deer start making their way back up. It depends on the area. In the agriculture area with plenty of beans and plenty of things like that, they stay closer to that line, may stay on that line, may stay above that line. But over here in the east, they dip way down. Most of these deer are grazing on fescue. Let's face it, that's what they got the most of to eat over here as far as graze is concerned. But if you put the food in the ground, if you build the habitat, food plots, shelter areas, less stress. Stress is a factor in there too. The closer you keep them deer to this midline with their nutritional value, their daily nutritional values, with food plots, with mineral sites, with things like that. You keep them close. The bigger deer you grow. Because if they got to spend all their effort because they're below this midline, nutritional wise, getting back, and then they start building antlers, you've lost. That's the reason some areas grow bigger deer, and then it's got a lot to do with genetics. But you have to think about it kind of like a midline. Anything below, they have to climb back up to before you're getting what you want. We talk about it all the time, Matt, with honeybees. You know, keeping honeybees on that midline through the winter. It's the same thing with deer. You got to keep deer's nutritional rate as close to center or to the line as possible.
Same thing with cattle or any other kind of livestock you're talking about. With cattle, you talk body condition. The better you can keep the body condition on cattle with feed and nutrition, and having plenty of grass for them to eat, having quality hay through the winter, and all this stuff. Those minerals and everything. The better and more flat that you can keep them in body condition, the more likelihood of them cycling on time, the more likelihood of them, getting impregnated on time, and all that rotation throughout the year. But once that body condition starts dipping, it takes so much effort and energy from them to bring them back up. It throws their cycles off, it throws their pregnancy rates off, it throws all that off. So,
and you're losing money as a farmer.
As a cattle farmer, you would be losing money. Right. As a deer, we say, well, it was just a bad year, we didn't see it. But what I would really encourage people to do is, I know everybody wants to kill big bucks. Okay, I know everybody wants to kill big bucks, but the fact is you need to concentrate on your does. If you keep them does healthy and you keep them lactating correctly, and you keep them to where they don't have to worry about their own body, they can dump all their excess into their fawns. Now you're going to be, if you're keeping that doe healthy, whether you see him or not, you're keeping the bucks healthy too.
That's right. That's right.
Let's face it, you're more likely to see the does.
Yeah.
If your does are fat and happy and your fawns are being raised up, big, healthy fawns, and she's, and she's in good shape and that fawn's in good shape, your buck's in good shape, whether you see him or not.
Yeah. So I'm primarily talking to the people who put out corn when I make these statements coming up. You can put into perspective, you can write down how much you spend putting out grain, all winter, fall long. And then you can take that same money and put into a food plot, and your yield on how many deer you're impacting, how much wildlife, not just deer, how much wildlife you're impacting is compounded significantly. And people can't get that through their head because they want a pinpoint portrait lane for a trail camera. And all they care about is getting deer on camera to that one specific point. For me, I'm more interested in farming wildlife. And I know the byproduct of that is going to be more turkey, more deer, bigger bucks, happy, healthy wildlife, better farm. So I really urge people to sit down with a pen and paper, think about from a serious standpoint how much. We all know corn went up, everything went up this past year, crazy. Write down how much you spend every month in corn during season. Then take that amount and see what it takes, how much you can plant a food plot for. I think you'll be very surprised at what you could be getting out of your farm. Corn and grain minus food plots. Am I right or wrong?
I think you're right about that. The only the only thing that the food plot takes, there's no difference in price. It's the effort. I mean, you got to be willing to put the effort out there to do it and do it right. I mean, it's a chance whenever you put seed in the ground that the plot ain't going to work out. But if you do your homework and pray for a little bit of rain, you're going to get pretty good results.
Yeah, Matt.
I would urge people to look at the protein side of things. Okay. So, and I used to know these numbers a lot more. I used to study it a little bit, but native browse in this part in the eastern part of Kentucky. Okay. Native browse, it runs about 10 to 12% protein. Native browse. Shell corn only carries about 8% protein. Carries more carbohydrates than native browse. Gives them the energy, gives them heat, but it only carries about 8% protein. Okay. You start looking at different food plots, and I'll just throw this one out. And I know that this is not going to be grown in eastern Kentucky much, but you start looking at soy, and you're up to 45% protein content. Okay. So here's the deal. If you feed them deer good, healthy protein foods throughout the year into fall, and they can keep those body conditions, they don't need those carbohydrates. They don't need 8% protein corn that everybody thinks they need. If they've got the body condition, they don't need to create extra heat with those carbohydrates. And if you can keep them on that high protein throughout the wintertime, and then they come into spring and they don't have to bring that body condition from here up to here, they automatically start growing bone from day one instead of working on body condition and then day 30 start growing bone. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
They can at that level, they can start growing antlers a lot earlier during the growing season. So I would look at protein content, and when you start weighing out protein percentage versus cost of material, corn's down here somewhere.
That's right.
Clover, all rye, different stuff like that. You can get those proteins way up there.
So we've talked about picking out a spot. We talked about soil samples. We talk about preparing a plot, what seed we're gonna pick. We've talked about nutritional rates, herd efficiency, nutritional rates. We've got the plant, we got the seed in the ground. Now we're just waiting. Where do we go from here?
I'll let you start with that one, Matt.
Is that it, Matt?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say sit back and watch it work. You put all your effort up in the beginning. All your effort, all your time, and then once you got her licked and that stuff starts growing and starts shrouding out your undesirable species, it'll start shrouding that out. And I lost it where your question's going.
No, you're doing good. So by keeping things simple, by starting out, you're a new food plot planner, keeping things simple, you eliminate some extra processes during the growing time. You get into certain species of plots, then you're going to have to come behind with spray. You may have to come behind and you may have to aerate soil. You may have to come back and spray a couple times. Keep it simple and then graduate up the food plot chain because you'll get more bang for your buck. Get that seed in the ground, get it going, and listen. Become friends with your co-op people, with your extension agents, with your soil conservation people. Invite them out. Say, hey, one day you ain't got anything to do. Could I maybe swing by, or could you meet me and take you up and let you take my? Those people would love to do that. I know these people here in our neck of the woods don't get offered that much. Our guys here are fantastic about coming out and helping us any way that they can. So by keeping it simple, and as you learn, and listen, read. If you don't like to read, watch videos on how to talk to people. And by doing this, if you really want to be a next level, and this is copyrighted, and I'm not meaning anything. We're not whatever, but I love it. If you want to be a next level gamekeeper, like the Mossy Oak boys say, diving into food plot management makes you a better hunter, makes you a better manager, and you will get more bang for your buck out of your property that you're looking for. If you're going out year after year and you're throwing some corn and some mineral down, you're going to spend the next 25, 30 years, 40 years, and you're going to be sorely disappointed. You may, a lucky squirrel finds a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. But if you really want to be to that next level, this is what you got to do. And it's a lot easier than what you think. Matt, what do you got in closing?
Just think of it as generational wealth. The work you put in today can be enjoyed by the next generations, whether that be your children or your grandchildren or your nephews and nieces and on down the line. But, it's you plant an oak tree today and it's 20 years before you see that pay off. But it's generational wealth.
That's right. Ben?
With me, what I would say with the in closing, if anybody's out there and they want to create a spot to where they can take a child, whether it be your little boy, your little girl, or just someone you're mentoring, and you can put them in a box blind and let them watch the woods come alive and really get to see a show. Planting one of these food plots and making it as successful as you possibly can is a great place to get a child into hunting. I know with my little boy, since we finally leased us a piece of ground, it's just changed his whole philosophy in hunting. From the time we get there to the time we leave, it's, which one is going to come out next. We start naming deer and know what deer's coming into the fields at what time. And it's a great way to pattern deer. And it's a great way to get young kids and anybody you're mentoring into hunting.
That's right. Very good, man. What a great show, guys. I'll tell you what, every time I talk to you two, I learn something new. I hope that everybody that gets to watch this will take the time to learn and understand that everything we're talking about here is just passing it on. Everything we can do, every steward, every gamekeeper, every farmer, every hunter, every fisher person, anybody that we can turn on to the great outdoors is somebody to pass it on, and seems like they're getting less and less. So hopefully maybe somebody, out of 10 people that watch us, maybe one will listen and maybe go out and plant a little food plot before season hits. So, and I urge everybody too, if you don't have anybody else, if you'll pick up the phone, if you'll get on fw.ky.gov, that's Fish and Wildlife, fw.ky.gov, you can get on there and look up all kinds of links to different resources about some of this stuff we've talked about. They've got growing charts, guides. You can get on some of the bigs, like we've talked about, Biologic, Whitetail Institute, Imperial Whitetail, all these things. You can get on there and look up, and they've got a lot of good information, or go to your local co-op, and they'll help you every way that they can. Guys, thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate you all very much. Want to urge everybody, talking about fw.ky.gov, if you'll go over and check out the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife website, they have a turkey survey on there that they're urging everybody to fill out. If you've not done so, head over there. If you're a turkey hunter and you hunted turkey this past season, go over there and fill that out. This is, priceless information, and everything that they do to try to put into the longevity of these species for generations to come. So head over there, check it out, fw.ky.gov. Won't take you 5 minutes to do that turkey survey. Fill it out, send it, and it all goes in right there, and help them out. So, guys, thank you all very much. Keep them plots going on. looking forward to see what they look like for the weeks to come.
See you,
Yeah.
buddy.
Y'all hang tight. Folks, that's it for on air and outdoors. Remember, if you're looking for a South African safari, we've got it for you. If you need help with your elk hunt, we just finished up. June 30th was the last day to put in for your areas. If you didn't get to put in your area, don't worry. You're not out. Once you get your area, you can give us a call. We hunt the majority of the areas. We'll help everybody every way that we can. And remember, if you're looking for that hunt of a lifetime, no matter what it may be, TLC's got something for everybody. So make sure you do that. And if you want to see some good summertime fun, head over to our new YouTube channel. That's at TLC Outfitters 1. And you're going to see some exciting frog gigging, and a new video is going to be posted every week. So hope everybody has a great week. Get outdoors and enjoy what God has gave us. We'll see you here next week.
Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, a field of streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name.